Very beautiful morning to you. This is Bigheart Radio 92.1 FM, the station that beats for you. I am Marvellous Akpenyi, and this is the Daily Brief. And on the Daily Brief this morning, we'll be taking a quick rundown of headlines that made it to national newspapers this morning. We'll be starting with the first paper we have for review this morning, and that will be This Day newspaper. All right, on This Day newspaper this morning, we have the first headline. I'm sure this is already expected. Every Nigerian today expects this to be on the cover pages of our newspapers. And that is, Tinubu calls Adeleke, tasks him on unity as INEC declares governor re-elected. Okay, Tinubu calls Adeleke, tasks him on unity as INEC declares governor re-elected. All right, and underneath that we have President says poll outcome reflects people's will, assurance, democracy thriving under APC. All right, and we have that there. It says Tinubu calls Adeleke, tasks him on unity as INEC declares governor re-elected. President says poll outcome reflects people's will, assurance, democracy thriving under APC. And then we have urges him to unite his people for growth, stability, socio-economic progress. And finally on that we have Lord's INEC, security agencies for conducting a peaceful, transparent poll. And that's on page 5 of This Day newspaper. And then there is a picture of Adeleke right there holding his hands up. If there is one thing Nigerians must have noticed about him, it's sometimes, he can seem like he's very grateful. He can be a little dramatic, if I can say that. He's holding his hands up and then he's looking up to God in appreciation. And the photo is titled Adeleke's savoring their moment of victory. And it's always interesting to watch him surrounded by his family. All right, and away from that, we have Bank of Industry mobilizes 250 billion naira development bond in domestic capital market as institutional demand spikes. Offer oversubscribed 5 days in testament to growing investor confidence. All right, and that story is also on This Day newspaper page 5. We have EFCC recovers $60 million in ongoing Nest Oil investigation. EFCC recovers $60 million in ongoing Nest Oil investigation. Okay, and we have the insiders. Ojulari, never awarded oil blocks, has no statutory role in license, and that's on page 39 of This Day newspaper. All right, and away from that, we have the Punch newspaper. And on the Punch, we have Oshunpol victory. Adeleke extends olive branch. APC Malls Tribunal challenge. Adeleke extends olive branch. APC Malls Tribunal challenge. And that's on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Underneath that headline, we have Tinubu hails Adeleke, commends INEC and security agencies for credible poll. Tinubu hails Adeleke, commends INEC and security agencies for credible poll. We have Atiku Obi Kwankwaso salute governor on re-election, congratulates Osun's voters. Atiku Obi Kwankwaso salute governor on re-election, congratulate Osun voters. And then we have APC says tribunal will be explored as lawyers review poll results from 332 wards. APC says tribunal will be explored as lawyers review poll results from 332 wards. I think after every election, Nigerian lawyers should be rejoicing. They should be celebrating because finally it's another season of court cases for them. Anyways, there are court cases every day because, somebody's rights might just get violated someone's rights gets violated every other day. But once it's election season, several court cases. I don't think I've ever imagined one election in Nigeria that everyone would just say, yeah, no court cases. Let's just agree. It's fine. It was the choice of the people. You won. We have lost. No court cases. This is very foreign to Nigerians. Anyways, away from that, we have Tinubu bets on PH Warri refineries despite Obasanjo's doubt. And I do not blame Obasanjo for having those doubts. I myself could as well have those doubts. I mean, just last week here we reported the amount that has already been invested in these refineries, and they are still not functional, let alone making profits. But then Tinubu is saying that he bets on PH and Warri refineries. And this was the same way he promised us before his election for this present tenure, that he was going to make our refineries work. And then, true to his words, well, not completely true to his words, soon as he got into office, he did ingest an amount of money to see if they would eventually work. But over time, we got reports that he had started working, and this one was refining, that one was refining. Although Nigerians had their doubts at that time. And then one day, we just get reports that this thing is actually not functional. It's broken down. And then we began to have our doubts again that, what if it actually never worked? And maybe all this was just to sort of suit our heart and make us believe in it again. Well, that's all I can say about that. Tinubu bets on PH Warri refineries despite Obasanjo's doubts. Away from that headline, we have El-Rufai demands family access and 100 billion naira damages from ICPC. That's interesting. El-Rufai demands family access and 10 billion naira. 10 billion naira damages from ICPC. 10 billion naira. All right. We have banks, fintechs flag 42,082 suspicious transactions to NFIU. Banks, fintechs flag 42,082 suspicious transactions to NFIU. And then we have Osun woman found dead with severed hand inside church. Osun woman found dead with severed hand inside church. And that's also on the Punch newspaper this morning. All right, on the Nation newspaper this morning, we have Tinubu, Adeleke's victory shows deepening democracy. Tinubu, Adeleke's victory shows deepening democracy. And it says, victorious governor pledges supports for president's election. I found this really interesting. Tinubu, Adeleke's victory shows deepening democracy. And then Adeleke, on his part, is pledging the president's re-election. I'm not going to focus too much on that because the platform will be coming up at exactly 8:30 a.m. and we'll get to give you some more details into all of this. Okay, Tinubu, INEC gets kudos. All right, and then away from that, we have on the Nation newspaper, EFCC recovers $60 million in ongoing Nest Oil investigation. EFCC recovers $60 million in ongoing Nest Oil investigation. That's on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. We have BOI's maiden development bond oversubscribed in 5 working days. Bank CEO attributes feat to president. The Bank of Industry's maiden development bond oversubscribed in 5 working days. Bank CEO attributes feat to president. You can find that on page 2. Yes, it's on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. All right, and we have still on the Nation, Senator Yari commended for sponsoring the 2026 3-day annual leadership summit of the Nigerian artisans and technicians as they endorsed Tinubu 2027 second term with a pledge to deliver over 5 million votes. That's interesting. All right, and also on the Nation newspaper, we have a quote from General Olufemi Oluyede, the Chief of Defense Staff, and it says, "In defense of truth, in the fight against terror, the soldier protects the ground. The journalist must protect the truth." This one's to journalists, to us, to me, you, and every journalist that's out there listening to me this morning. All right, let's move away from the Nation newspaper and now to The Guardian. On The Guardian, we have Osun polls, opposition's victory relieves people power, raises stake for APC in 2027. Osun polls, opposition's victory relieves people power, raises stake for APC in 2027. And that's on page 6 of The Guardian. We have gunmen kill 4 in Benue as troops repel attack on Bomo military base. Osun polls. We're past Osun polls. Gunmen kill 4 in Benue as troops repel attack on Borno military base. And it's on the news page 9. Erufai files fresh 10 billion naira suit against ICPC for allegedly denying family access to him. And it's on page 9 of The Guardian. Also on The Guardian, we have stop blaming past governments for refineries. Woes Atiku tells Tinubu. Okay, stop blaming past governments for refineries. Woes Atiku tells Tinubu, and it's on the news page 3. Osun polls Makinde, NGF, ADC, Huriwa, Yaga Africa congratulates Adeleke, and it's on page 3. And we also have resident doctors unveil new work regulation to check burnout. I actually saw that on the internet. They're now going to get one day off, that's a whole day, 24 hours, full day of rest. They're going to get some minutes to take calls and all of that. Okay, and away from that, we have ASU rallies federal government to lecturers' grievances and welfare demands. ASU rallies federal government to lecturers' grievances and welfare demands. And that's on the news, page 8 of The Guardian newspaper. All right, and that's all we'll be taking from The Guardian. Finally, let's move to The Vanguard. The Vanguard has the headline, "Why Adeleke won again in Osun." Why Adeleke won again in Osun. It says a division in APC, that's a reason. And Governor Adeleke's regular payment of salaries, INEC's conduct and prompt upload of results on IREV. Adeleke declares no victor, no vanquished, and clashes with Keyamo over support for Tinubu. And that's on page 5 of The Vanguard. All right, and we have imports choke textile industry, rise to 1.1 trillion naira in 2 years. Manufacturers Association of Nigeria cautions against blanket restrictions as textile manufacturers demand stronger protection. Revive local production instead of import ban. That's coming from CPPE. That's all on page 11. That's all on page 11 of The Vanguard. And also we have 2027, I am not bothered about spare tire tag for VPs. That's coming from Kwankwaso. 2027, I am not bothered about spare tire tag for VPs. I think I wouldn't mind being vice president, even though you have to call me spare tire. So I don't blame Kwankwaso for saying this at all. And it's on page 8. We have opposition parties must bury egos to defeat APC in 2027. That's coming from Duke, and it's on page 10. Concession of King's College, parents mobilize for protest, and that's also on page 10. We have ranching plan sparks fresh war between Governor Alia and PDP. Ranching plan sparks fresh war between Governor Alia and PDP. And finally, on The Vanguard, we have EFCC recovers $60 million in ongoing Nest Oil investigation. EFCC recovers $60 million in ongoing Nest Oil investigation. All of that you can find on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And don't go away. The platform, the very first edition of the platform, will be coming up shortly at exactly 8:30 a.m. We'll just go for a quick break. At 8:30 a.m. we'll be back with the platform. We have a whole lot to talk about. If you follow the paper review, you've seen all the major stories that made it to the headlines, particularly the Oshu elections. We'll get to talk about that in a moment. Please stay with us.